Welcome back to SwitchCorner. My name is Alex and today we're going to be taking a look at Double Dragon Neon on the Nintendo Switch. This is a re-release of a title from 2012 when way forward they tried their hand bringing the Lee brothers to consoles, but how does it stand up in 2020 and is it worth your cash? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family and let's get started. So story-wise, it's a beat-em-up, so don't expect anything, groundbreaking. That said, it is a fun ride. Way forward, they take our protagonists, they dial things up to 11 and they send them on the hunt as usual to save Marian. This time as always, they're saving them from the Shadow Warriors gang and their leader here, Skullmageddon. It's cheesy, it will take you from Earth to space, but it's a fun ride and a decent enough excuse to bring the characters back to our consoles. That's really about it for story, so with that, let's jump into gameplay. So gameplay wise, it's a pretty traditional beat 'em up, move your way through like side scrolling levels while facing off against enemies, sub bosses and bosses, and it's all gonna wrap up things within like 10 levels. The control is exactly what you would expect, movement with the left stick, and that's accompanied then by a heavy attack, a light attack, grab, duck, dash, jump, and then also super moves. Change up the input combination though and you can expect to see different variations on things, so things like heavy attack and jump, that's going to be a flying kick. The duck, that can also be a dodge roll. That's going to be something you need to get used to as well if you want to succeed here alongside the likes of finishers and magic. In fact, here you can even breakdance and activate some specials that steal life from your bro or even, let's say, double your damage. Like any good beat 'em up though, you can jump in here with just the basic moveset and absolutely succeed, but if you want that life to be a little bit easier, I'd say start to make sense of that hidden depth, especially, I'm going to say it again, that dodge roll. That's because unlike a successful move, that's going to lead to some juicy double damage. Basically, the moveset, the control was nothing really out of the ordinary for the genre, but perhaps Double Dragon like Neon's most defining feature, its use of an upgrade system that comes here in two forms. We have Sosetsuken songs, which I'm for sure pronouncing wrong. That's basically your magic attack. My favourite was a good old fireball. And then also stance songs. These stance songs, they're simply boosts to your stats that are permanent. There's a decent selection though of tracks with 10 levels to each to max out, but there's also a store called the Tapesmith here where you can use Mithril to increase your caps. This Mithril, it's dropped by the many bosses you will face. So this is, I'll tell you now, an entry I've always really liked, though it does seem to divide audiences with both its systems and general gameplay. I personally like the whole song leveling up system. It's a unique twist to a genre that takes very few risks. And then the combat and enemy selection is absolutely solid. Like any beat 'em up, the enemies, they repeat a lot, but that's where the skill really comes in. You need to understand their movesets and basically figure out how you can exploit them. Without a block mechanic here, which is pretty traditional for the genre, that's very much where the skill lies. As always then here, expect single player and local co-op. There's no online play, and when it comes to co-op you can play traditionally as a pair, or you can use a system called Shadow Bro. This simply means they will inherit all your songs or your upgrades, the collectibles, just to create a balanced team. It's especially useful if someone like, let's say, jumps in mid-run. My issues with Neon, it's always been the same things, and that's pretty much the case here. It is, a straight up port. The grab mechanic, it's always been a little on the temperamental side. I won't connect, let's say, with my opponent who's standing right next to me, for example, but a split second later they will squarely connect, a punch with my face. Likewise, a few of them, especially the bosses, they have some cheaper attacks that are just so difficult to judge and manage at times. It's not frequent, but there will for sure be moments that cause that frustration. It's going to make you want to put down the controller and just walk away for a few moments, mainly because honestly this is a no checkpoint experience, meaning if you do die, let's say on that very last moment of a boss fight, it's going to be back to the beginning of that level entirely. Then on those boss moments, in fact, the lack of a health bar for me just took away any real sort of strategy. Sure, they flash giving you an idea it's almost over, but just give me something I can see so I can work my strategy against it. Start like with distance, keep far away, but then move closer and closer as that bar whittles down. Finally then, some platforming moments. The controls are just not made for this, and while you will get through them, I wouldn't call them particularly fun, more just, as I say, something you need to get through. None of these things really, hurt the experience, but you will for sure notice them. The best way though I can describe Neon is it's a love letter to the series. They knew expectations were high, and instead of, trying to recreate the original, trying to live up to them, they take the idea, they dial it all the way up to 11 on that crazy scale, and it allows for it to feel like a standalone entry as its own thing. Not a bad move, honestly, when the series is so loved, and you'll walk away feeling like it's just great to see these characters again, even with the occasional issue. It feels like it was made by fans, for fans. That's probably the biggest compliment I can give it. Just know it's also not the longest of games then. It took me about an hour and a half total on that normal difficulty, but of course, like any good beat 'em up, expect more difficulty options, and yeah, lots of reasons to go back. I really don't understand the omission of a traditional high score mode, but instead here, you're going to be trying to find all the songs, collect cash through the levels, while of course beating your fast time. Graphically speaking then, I really do like it. The Lee brothers, they look great, and they have all the visual finesse you would expect with their movesets and, animations. And then enemies, well, they do repeat a lot. There's a good balance between like new ideas and then obviously classic designs, throwbacks. Think like the Linda-esque characters with their whips. Likewise then, the stages, thanks to that trip to outer space and all that, they take full advantage, making for a diverse selection of locations and color palettes, along with a ton of traps and different obstacles in your way. My favorite parts though, two things. The neon in the name carries over to the gameplay. It works perfectly to illuminate much of this world. And then boss design, from Skullmageddon himself to tanks and helicopters. Yes, the moves at times might be a little on the cheap side, but the design is great, as they often just like tower over you with a ton of flash. Great stuff visually, and I played both handheld and docked with no issue at all. Gotta say here as well, just final kind of comment on graphics. Overall, the genre hasn't moved too far since 2012, so it doesn't really look dated at all or out of place next to the likes of, let's say, Streets of Rage 4 and The Takeover. Audio finally then, and there's not a huge amount to it. Some extremely cheesy voice acting, which suits the 80s style perfectly. It's also minimal, but like maybe a few sentences here and there, but it just complements the character design. It gives them just a tiny bit of personality, which is much appreciated. Then punches, kicks, enemy attacks, it all sounds good and pretty much delivers honestly exactly what you would go in expecting. When Neon deviates from the standard mold though, it's gotta be its music. Yeah, it's still got that synthwave vibe, don't get me wrong, but these are full-on tracks with vocals. It's almost, think borderline new wave, so think the likes of Blondie-esque. It was unexpected first time around. I grew to love it with my playthrough though, and it really does work, and I couldn't wait to jump back in again to hear it. It's a soundtrack I'm more than happy to listen to offline. So overall, Double Dragon Neon, it arrives on the Switch, and it's good to see this comeback. With the recent resurgence in the genre, there's absolutely no better time for them to throw their hat into the ring. Here though, they copied the majority of what you would expect. They've had a stumble or two along the way, but then they've tried to build on the formula with minor RPG leveling up moments that some will love and some probably not so much. For me though, even with some cheap attack patterns and problematic controls, I can't deny I'm a fan, and today I'm giving this one a good 7 out of 10. I think if it was a little on the cheaper side, I'd probably be a little more generous, but it's a 50% increase from what you will find on Steam. And then with the likes of The Takedown and Streets of Rage 4, I just can't recommend this first. Play those games first, then come here. Still great though, I gotta say, to see the Lee brothers back. Will you be adding this one to the collection though, or skipping for the time being? I'm curious to hear in the comments down below, and did you play it first time around? With that then, like a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. Helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I've linked it down in the video description below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.